Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Claire Auden,
I'm Adriana Bucci.
And I'm Telsha Edinburgh.
and today we are talking about the new supply.
Hot topic.
What do we mean by supply when we refer to the narcissist's new supply?
New energy source.
The new energy source.
New energy.
I had a conversation with a
Okay.
friend recently, and I was talking about the new supply, and he was like, "The what?" And I was like, "Oh, I forget that everyone doesn't understand the narcissistic abuse terminology." He's like, "The what?"
Yeah, it's basically they don't view other people as humans. They view them as sources of supply. And so anybody who is, in a new relationship with a narcissist, it's not like that's their new girlfriend, it's their new supply, right? And it doesn't even have to be in a romantic relationship. It can even be like in a family dynamic. So if it's like a narcissistic mother and you've gone no contact with her, she'll find like a friend or maybe another relative as like her new supply, and like that's their new source of energy. And they're basically, when you become a narcissist's new supply, they are love bombing you like crazy and making it seem like, the best relationship of all time.
It's very true. Because they get tired of supply and they have to, they wait until you're all in and then they drop the bomb on you and they tell you, then they start to breadcrumb you. Once they see that you're all in, they start that, misbehaving. And then that at that point, that's when they're going to they're actually looking for a new supply because you're no longer a challenge. You need them. And you've gotten to that place where they don't have to worry anymore. So now it's time to get a new supply because they're adrenaline junkies and they feed off of the dopamine rushes. So once you become old supply, then they are no longer being supplied with that adrenaline, the dopamine, and the oxytocin, which means that they stay on a systematic low with you. So at that point, and that's unacceptable for a narcissist because they need that. They have to have it in order to survive. And so what happens is you end up being old news. You have to because they need supply. So new supply comes into play and it's a sewage storm raining all over again because they're going to take them through the same cycle. But they have to do it. I mean, the pathology of the disorder dictates it.
Yeah, and they've normally found and lined up that new supply and started grooming them long before they actually leave you. So they
Mhm.
can monkey branch from you to the new person.
Exactly. They collect people, right? Like they basically have like a Rolodex collection of people that they can target for supply. And they're always kind of on that hunt for supply. So they'll have like, a few people as like backup options in case it doesn't work out with the new supply or with you if you're the supply, just so their ego is always being sort of pacified by that new source.
I think one of the most common questions that I get, and it's very distressing for people that are trauma bonded to a narcissist who has just suddenly moved on to someone else, is have they changed? Because they're acting so different. They're dressing differently, they're talking differently, they have different hobbies, everything has changed about them. Have they changed for the new supply?
They have not changed. It's just an act, right? It's they're trying to gain the new supply's trust. So they have to be on their absolute best behavior, and they will mold themselves into who they think the new supply wants them to be. So whether that's, changing how they dress, changing their appearance, growing a beard, getting a haircut, whatever it is, they will literally be that person. And a lot of the times it's like they become the person you wish that they were towards the end of the relationship. And they kind of do that to spite you in a way, just to make you feel even more like shit because they know you're trauma bonded to them. And then they'll be everything that you wish that they were with the new supply to, make you jealous and make you feel like, something's wrong with you. And, why couldn't this person be this way for me? But the reality is they're just playing a little game and gaining that new supply's trust so that they can start, the devaluation stage, because it's all about the cycle of abuse, love bomb, devalue, discard, and they will stay in that love bomb for as long as they need to until that new supply has fully bought in and, starts trusting them. And then, of course, they're going to start treating that person like shit. But you're not going to know that because you're not there behind closed doors.
I mean, they change their mask
True.
and they're always looking at honing their mask and getting better at the performance. And they will say and do and become whatever they need to hook in that new supply, to love bomb them and to get them to fall for them. And a lot of the time, they're taking the things that you've told them that you needed to the new supply in order to hook them in the love bombing phase, because they're like, oh, these are the things that people want. These are the things that are going to work. These are the things that you wanted. So I'm going to take these tips. Thanks very much. But they haven't changed at the core. It's just the mask. It's just the love bombing phase. And they took information from the previous supply to your love bombing phase. And they mirrored you in your love bombing phase. And the previous partner was watching you guys together and going, have they changed? They're doing all of the things that I wanted. But they haven't changed.
They change initially just to, like you said, to like to just change the mask and to basically become whatever that new supply needs them to be. So in some instances, that does mean that they need to change their haircut, maybe wear a different type of shirt or a different type of watch or shoes or whatever they need in order to engage that new supply. And then once they have them, then it starts all over again. It's never going to change the pathology of the cycle that they have, but the mask, in order to create the mask, they have to have information. So that information that they get from the new supply is what they use to create the mask, which does sometimes lead them to change different things about themselves. But the cycle itself and the abuse and the manipulation and the way that they go about it does not change. And I think sometimes that's what the old supply get, they're like, but they changed for the new supply. They're taking them on a cruise. They're taking them on the vacation that I always wanted to go on. Well, did you check to see who was paying for it? Did you check to see possibly if, this person has money or, so it's kind of like you want to ask all these questions, but they're just so distraught because they're watching their social media and they're seeing all of these things. And you're just like, but this person has not changed internally.
Yeah.
They are not different.
Yeah.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if you wrap a piece of shit in newspaper or in a pretty box with a bow, a piece of shit is still going to be a piece of shit.
And it's still going to stink.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mine had a whole glow up after his marriage, and then he got in the relationship with me. Like, he had a whole glow up. He used to talk about how he used to dress. Like, he got a new car, he got a new job, he started dressing completely differently and acting completely differently, all these new hobbies. And I kind of look back retrospectively and imagine how his ex-wife would have felt watching that.
Yeah, that's and they like to do that because they want to see the reaction.
Yeah.
They want to see you react to it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's to pull you in and to do what we call a reverse Hoover. And they want to see, but I tell people how you do that like a boss is you act like it doesn't bother you. I mean, even in just toxic relationships, the person could be narcissistic, but just not a narcissist. I don't always say match energy because you don't want to bring yourself down to their level. But you definitely have to let them know who's in charge. And the way that you do that is that you have to be in complete control of your emotions. And so when you're out there watching this type of stuff, you got to be in control. But a lot of times they do it for reactions. They want to see what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Are you going to react? You like that?
And they have to win the breakup. They have to look like they've come out on top and look like you're the problem and look like you're the crazy one. And they have to, it's all about image control and appearances.
It is. And when you are dealing with an individual like that, I tell in coaching, I'm like, the way you truly blow up the spot is that you act like nothing is wrong. Right? When they're doing their breadcrumbing and they're trying to switch it up on you, you act like nothing is wrong. Like, okay, you let them, you observe. Because a lot of times when people are trying to come out of these relationships and when the narcissist is like grooming the new supply, we get so emotional because they're devaluing. And so when I have clients that are like seriously trying to come out, it's like you sit and watch the pattern for a couple of days. They're going to show you who they are. And I said, the way you blow up the spot is you smile and you act like nothing is going on. And then like that second or third day, you just hit them with a cold no contact, like they calling all day long. They can't get you, like they're blowing up your phone, like what is happening? That's how, even with just a toxic individual, the way you show a narcissist who you truly are is that you do just that. You show them. You don't tell them anything because words mean nothing to them. So when they're out there devaluing and they're getting ready to get that new supply in place, people like, oh, I don't know why you're treating me like this. We made the same mistake because we didn't know. You don't tell them anything. You just show them what time it is. And you're like, okay, so you thought you was playing a game. I got a game for you. How you like this? They don't like it.
Yeah, because winning the game is not playing, not rising to the bait.
That's it. That's it. You just be on some, I'm not doing that. And guess what? I'm not answering my phone. And I don't care what you say and what you do. I'm not. So bye.
Yeah. Take yourself off the board.
That's it. Absolutely.
So what makes the love bombing phase potentially last longer with the new supply? And why are they potentially staying with the new supply longer? Because this is definitely something that feeds into people's fears that maybe they were the problem and maybe the narcissist really has changed.
What's going to make it last longer? I think if the new supply is giving them back what they give to the new supply. So as hard as the narcissist comes, the new supply comes as hard as they do. So, I mean, it's like reciprocal, right? Because a narcissist likes to receive too. So if they're doing that and the narcissist is getting that benefit off of the love bomb, whereas they are working, but they're not working as hard as the new supply, and they're receiving just as much, if not more, then it's to their benefit to continue for a little while longer until they can get them to a place where the new supply is like, oh, I'm just so deeply in love with you and this and that. And once they get them there, that's it. That's it, because they don't have anything else to give after that. So I think what would make it last longer is that the new supply is participating in the love bomb and receiving, and not only receiving, but they're reciprocating on, maybe a different level. And at that point, the narcissist is actually gaining more than they're putting out. So it's to their benefit to stay in that stage a little bit longer. Now, they don't want to continue because, I'll say at a certain point that narcissist is like, oh, I'm so sick of being nice. This is so, and then they're just like, I just need a demonic animal. I'm going to throw up. And my people always laugh. They're just like, oh my God, not a demonic. I was like, listen, they need a demonic enema. Okay. They need to clean all of that niceness out. And they're like, oh, I'm so sick of being nice. Then the demon comes out and you're like, oh.
Pretty much.
That's what they do. I'm telling you. And then when they start into that devaluation, you're like, what who is that?
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes the narcissist is love bombing the new supply for even longer and parading this kind of love bombing all over social media to hurt you and make you feel like you were the problem. They will get into a relationship with someone and parade them all over social media and drag out that love bombing phase as revenge to hurt you. And if you think surely they're not that petty, they are.
It can appear sometimes that the love bombing is longer than the love bombing you had, but you also have to keep in mind that people choose what to post on social media. So you don't know if he made the new supply cry 5 minutes before that like glamorous photo was taken. You know what I mean? So it's just something to keep in mind. Like you actually have no idea what's going on behind closed doors. And narcissists are all about image. So they want to look like, partner of the year or whatever. And it's really like that love bombing will last, like the genuine love bombing. I mean, there's nothing genuine about it, first of all. Like it's all bullshit to begin with. Like it's just a manipulation tactic to gain your trust so they can start devaluing you. But you know, if the new supply is kind of like playing hard to get, right? If the new supply is not initially trusting the narcissist right away, that can excite the narcissist because it's like, oh, they need to try harder. Because the harder they try to gain that person's trust, like the worse the devalue is going to be, and the more demonic they can be, and the more, you know, they can have that demonic purge or whatever, the demonic enema, like Telsha was saying. And it's you know, it really it's as long as it takes to gain that person's trust. So if it's like overnight, right, they're going to start devaluing the new supply right away, but you're not going to know that because it's not like the new supply is going to be posting like their diary on social media saying like, oh my gosh, today was really hard, I'm so confused, he said this yesterday and then today he was treating me like shit. Like no one's going to post anything like that, realistically speaking. So you have to really keep that in mind, that it's all about appearances. It can look like that love bombing is, you know, extended with this new supply, but think back to your relationship with the narcissist in the early stages, right? And think about the stuff that was getting posted on social media when you were with the narcissist. Were some of those photos not taken like right after a fight potentially, but it looks like you're super happy and having the best time of your life in that picture? Like that's like a snapshot, like that's 2 seconds, a millisecond of your day versus all the other million milliseconds of the day that you've been tortured by this person. So it's, you know, it's all optics.
It is. Yeah. It is. And aesthetics, because they want beautiful people, you know, they do. So yeah, I totally agree. It's optics and aesthetics. They want it to look good and they want you to think that it's good.
And, you know, when people worry that what if the narcissist finds their, you know, perfect person, then will they change? Then will they act right? And the thing is, it's not about the other person at all. It's how the narcissist is. No one else can change how the narcissist is. And even if the narcissist finds someone who is a yes man and doing everything that they want and reflecting back to them that they're amazing and jumping how high, they get bored because they don't love and they don't emotionally connect. So they get bored and then they're going to treat that person with contempt.
You know, the thing that we know is that at some point it's gonna be bad. And the bad part about it is that the new supply doesn't understand that narcissists are very petty. They're very tit for tat. And so they don't understand that they've entered a sewage storm with a complete idiot that is, you know, running game on them and the person that is they're possibly trying to offend or whatever. And it's very sad because the person, you know, the new supply is kind of caught in the middle and the narcissist has told them all types of lies. Oh, you know, I don't want to do this. And this person is they're just telling lies. I mean, you know, so they make up this whole big story, you know. And so it's the saddest thing because the new supply is sitting there like a sitting duck, basically not understanding that this person is a complete manipulator, a total nut job, and just doesn't want anything but to basically just extract, just do transactions, because a relationship with a narcissist is very transactional.
Yeah.
And so the new supply will learn shortly that they are going to now be on that same list that the old supply is on, and the cycle continues. And they don't care. You know, the narcissist doesn't care, but they'll lie. They'll do everything that they can to keep them in that. And then unfortunately, because the new supply has lied so much on the old supply, the new supply is now assisting the narcissist in doing all the mean, hateful things that they want to do to the old supply, not understanding that they're going to be in that same seat soon too.
Triangulation. Absolutely. What about when they downgrade with the new supply? This happens often enough. And this drives people insane. I think like the narcissist always wants you to compare yourself to the new supply. If they're quote unquote better looking, more successful, whatever, you know, the criteria is that the narcissist has gone to, people are comparing themselves to that person. And then if they downgrade, then you're comparing yourself to that person. They're less good looking, they're less successful. Why go to them?
Well, they downgrade a lot of times because it's a way to get back at you. And you know, it's kind of like, look what I have. And she's like way more tore up. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like she's busted and she likes me and you're just beautiful. And I'm just letting you know that I don't have to be with someone like you. And I love her and I'm going to shower her with all of these things. And a lot of times, I mean, because like I often say it on my channel, some of you guys you guys got a glimpse of the new supply and you were just like, they basically cussed the narcissist out right there in the car by themselves. Then they cussed themselves out. Like you just told yourself off. Like what the is happening? This is crazy. Like you are with a farm animal. You know what I'm saying? Like what is going on? You know, so that's what they are literally looking like. This is a farm animal. Like, is this Charlotte's Web? Like what is happening? And so the narcissist is, look what I got, you know, and you're just like parading the person around and you're just like, what, you know, and a lot of times they are looking again for a reaction.
Exactly.
They want a reaction. They want you to say something about that busted girl that they got over there with the toes hanging over the top of the shoes and the heels are cracked up and you're just like, wow.
Yeah.
It's a continued devaluation.
You know what I'm saying?
It's a continued devaluation.
It totally is. And it's like from a different angle, but it truly is. You're just like, what?
Particularly if you were
But they
very
want it more.
successful, very attractive, then they're going to downgrade just to hurt you. And again, if you think surely they're not that petty, they are. I feel like I'm going to be repeating this line a lot in this podcast. Yes, they are that petty. They will marry the new supply just to hurt you. They will do all kinds of crazy things.
Exactly.
And don't even love the new supply. I mean, you know, they don't love anyone.
They don't love anyone.
They don't want the new supply. And people are like, oh, they just want the new, oh, that person is better than me. No, it's not. They want you to say something. They want you to reach out to them and say, I can't believe you're with this person. Are you absolutely stupid? And they're just sitting there waiting for that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they get it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it gives them an opportunity to basically say, like, you're shallow if you do say something about the new supply when it's like, you know, a super downgrade. Like, I mean, you know, I don't want to sound shallow saying this, but it's like if they go from, you know, someone who's like attractive and then a farm animal, it's like, you know, how it's, you know, it's so tempting because like you're going to be so like, what the fuck? Like, you know, like I thought this, like they are so shallow and they'll like say like looks are important and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden it's like they are with the complete opposite of what you would think they would be with. And you're so tempted to reach out. And then if you do, then they get that opportunity to say like, see, you're shallow. You're all about looks and stuff like that. And another angle of it, it's also an optics thing for the narcissist. So they don't look shallow, right? Because if keep dating people who are like extremely attractive and successful, that's gonna, you know, it's gonna be like, oh, this person has a type, they're very shallow, da da da. And then if they show up with like, you know, someone who's not conventionally attractive and, you know, below the league of what they usually go for, then it's gonna be like, oh, well, she must have a really great personality and maybe this person doesn't care about looks. And it could also be like a strategy of them lining up even more supply after that person.
And the thing is, if you're sitting there going, what does this person have that I don't have? And you're racking your brain and you're tearing yourself apart and comparing yourself to them, you're playing into the narcissist game. That's exactly what they want you to do. That's exactly what they want you to ask yourself. They want you to feel like, what does this person have that I don't have? And, you know, narcissists are also supply fluid. They are so supply fluid. Like they will get supply anywhere, anytime, anyone.
Exactly. As long as they're getting a reaction from someone. And like, if you think about it too, right? If they go for someone who is, you know, a gremlin, that that person's gonna feel so special and like, oh my gosh, like this person actually wants me for me. Like, and that's such a love bomb too, where it's like they're gonna destroy that person even more.
Mm. Yeah.
Mhm.
And going
Yeah.
for someone that's the opposite of you anyway, like even if it's not a downgrade, if it's just someone that looks the complete opposite of you, yeah, you're gonna compare.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I mean, what Adriana said was it's the truth, and you just have to kind of look. But this is where, again, we have to be in control of our emotions, man, because they take you into that emotional space so much that you just, that's one thing with a narcissist. And one thing that I noticed for sure is that relationship with them is truly emotional. It's nothing about logic, common sense, and what makes sense. It's all about feelings and emotions. And that's why it's so crazy, because nothing ever made sense. And we couldn't even see that it didn't make sense. We're like, but why? Because you were left in that emotional space.
Exactly.
So,
When you're in that bamboozled emotional state, like your IQ goes down several points. Like logic goes out the window because you are stuck in that emotion. And I could not agree with you more, Telsha, that like this is why it's so, so important to be in touch with your emotions and be in control over your emotions and, really make friends with those emotions, because that's like the biggest part of healing.
it is
And
definitely,
and this is
because
why
they're
they
the hardest thing to control.
yeah, and this is why they cultivate so much confusion, because when you're confused, you get into your emotion brain.
Exactly. Exactly. It's all about repressed emotions. If you're confused, there's an emotional reason behind it. It's not that you're misunderstanding things. It's not that you're stupid. It's that this person has induced some sort of emotional state within you where things are not lining up and you're confused, and confused people are easier to control.
Yeah.
And they will use those emotions of guilt, shame, and fear. I tell all my clients all the time, they are the three musketeers. If you are in any of those emotional states, and on top of that, we can add confusion, we can add sense of obligation, we can add bamboozlement, whatever you want to call it. You are so much easier to control than somebody who's not in any of those emotional states. And those emotional states will totally happen when a narcissist gets a new source of supply, right? You might feel shame. Yeah.
Mhm.
You will probably feel shame if the new supply is, whether they're an upgrade or a downgrade from you or whatever, if they are displaying the love bombing for you to see and making sure that you see it, you're going to feel ashamed of yourself and start thinking like, oh my gosh, like what's wrong with me? Right? Or, you might feel fear that like you did something so wrong in that relationship and now, you're never going to find somebody. You might feel guilt that like you screwed things up so epically for whatever reason that they've made you believe. And that keeps you still in the narcissist's trap when you are feeling those emotions.
But you also have to always remember not to compare your discard phase to the narcissist love bombing phase with the new supply. Particularly if you've been in a long-term relationship with a narcissist many years and it's been bad for a long time, and then you watch them love bombing the new supply, that comparison isn't realistic. And it's like, yes, they're love bombing the new supply now. Maybe they've been love bombing the new supply for 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, whatever it is. What Adriana said before, you don't know what's going on behind closed doors, and it's easy to smile on social media while you're crying yourself to sleep at night. But take a look at what the narcissist is doing with that new supply once they've been together for 10 years.
And, I think it's important to understand that in all of this, even though it's hard to, coach to this, I think it's important to understand that it's not personal.
Yeah.
We take it so personal. And that's very hard to tell a person that is in love with a psychopath, or a sociopath. Don't take it personally. They do this to everyone. And the person is like, but how could I not take it personal? Like my heart is in this. And it's so hard to explain, and it's sad because you're trying to tell them that this person is sick. In other words, you're trying to tell them like something is wrong upstairs. This is what they do to everyone. This is not just you. But I think the more they learn to not take it personal and to understand that this is a mental illness that this person has, you can go into a logical space and not sit so much in the emotion, but that requires maturity in the mind. You know what I'm saying? Because a very immature person, because what I find is that the best supply for a narcissist is a toxic codependent, right? Because a toxic codependent always needs another person, or borderline. Borderlines love narcissists, and narcissists love borderline, because borderlines have that abandonment mechanism, that like they will do anything not to be abandoned, like they don't want to be abandoned. But when you realize that it's not personal, and this person is sick, and you have to move on from the emotional space of it, and this person doesn't have the ability to treat you the way that you should be treated. They just don't have it within them. And when people begin to understand that, it's a little bit better. But and I think that's something that is not talked about enough on platforms, is the fact that we shouldn't take it personal. But it's hard to not take it personal when you're emotionally invested. It's like, I take that personal that you called me out of my name. I take that personally that you stole money out of my bank account. Like, that is really personal to me. But I think that's something, we need to talk about more. But when you realize that, you don't envy the person would not envy the new supply, because they would understand that the new supply is going to get the exact same thing that they did, or perhaps worse.
Yeah, I always say to my clients that you need to try, even though the narcissist looks normal enough of the time and can behave like a normal person enough of the time when they're not triggered, particularly in public or in the love bombing phase, you have to see it as though they have an intellectual disability. They have an incapacity for love. They have an incapacity for deep emotional connection. And that has nothing to do with you. It's an incapacity within them. And like you said, Telsha, it's not personal, and it's not about the person that they're with. And it's not because you weren't good enough or because the next person is better. It's because the narcissist sees people as objects that serve a purpose. They are there to utilize, and they can't even see you for or appreciate the qualities that you have as a human being, because they're looking at you going, how can I use you to serve a purpose? How are you making me look? How are you making me feel? What are you doing for me? Are you believing the lies? Are you not calling me out? Are you, helping me maintain this mask in public? Are you going along with my lies? Like,
that's so true. And that's so good, because I think you hit it right there. And it's perception management is what they're always engaged in perception management and image, and conserving their, making sure they preserve their image and perception management. They are very concerned about the way that they are perceived, right? Because they want to be perceived as good people. They want to be perceived as, these people that would never do any harm to anyone, especially when you get to the communal narcissist. The communal narcissist is very hard to detect, because they're most of the time covert narcissists. They're well respected in the community. They have a lot of connections. They're plugged into a lot of people. They have this do-gooder mentality, but they are very much a toxic narcissist with a mental illness. And it's crazy, because when you really look at it and you break it down, you're just like, what is this? And it's so very, but it's all about perception management, and it's all about, preserving their image in front of the people. Because once someone sees a narcissist as, oh, you're not, we don't think you're this or that, I mean, that's a complete blow to their ego. And once that ego has a hole in it, I mean, that's like a 911 call for a narcissist.
Yeah.
You know, it really is, because you can't poke a hole in the ego. The ego has to stay in place. It can be in no way, shape, form, or fashion fractured, punctured, or anything, or else it's going to basically turn into a sewage storm raining large turds real quick. Seriously.
Yep.
Seriously. That's bad.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So are you sure the new supply is going to get devalued? Are
Yes.
you sure they haven't changed? Yes,
Yes.
Adriana?
Yes. I don't even need to look into my crystal ball. Yes, I am sure. If it's not today, it's going to be tomorrow.
No assistance needed. Well, I don't have a crystal ball, but I can tell you this, and don't want one, but I'm just going to tell you this. That new supply is in for it. That new supply is going to be running for the hills if they have any sense. And it just depends on what level they're on. If they are, up to being abused, or if they are a toxic individual and they need that attention and they need people, then it may take a little bit longer for them to kind of get tired. But the new supply will be devalued. They will be shelved just like every other supply. So absolutely. That question is, yeah, it's going
And
to happen.
also, you know this person. You lived with this person. You were with them for years. They have abused you psychologically, emotionally, physically. They've waged an epic smear campaign. They've isolated you. They've turned people against you. Like, this is their character. Character doesn't change. You know, good
Exactly.
people can't pretend to be bad, but bad people can pretend to be good. Like, you lean into what you know. It doesn't matter how it looks like they're behaving in the love bombing phase. You know this person is a monster. You know them better than anyone.
100%. And I just remembered that I actually met up with one of the new supplies after
Really?
like they had broken up. Yeah, this is like over 10 years ago, so my memory's a little hazy, but she was absolutely destroyed. Like I had moved on at that point. I found my now husband. We were like just starting to date, and she had messaged me on Facebook, and you know how it has like that like other inbox, so I didn't see it for like months. And yeah, she was basically, I found out at that point that like he had been cheating on me with her. And yeah, I had no idea. But it made sense because like the dates that she was saying, I was like, oh, that's why he left early. Okay. So it was just like everything started to make more sense. And when we met up, like, and she was much younger than me too, which, I was just like, wow, like, like, okay, like that's borderline grooming. I think she would have been like 19, 20, and we were in our like mid 20s at that point. So it was just like, okay, wow, like that's kind of predatory there. But and she was like so young and impressionable. And all I remember from this dinner that when we met up, because I was just like, sure, why not? Like, let's spill the tea. Like, this should be interesting. I should write a book. But she was
Let's go for it. Let's
I know,
hear.
I know, but she was completely destroyed. Like she was in shambles, and it had been months after they had broken up, and she was still like so destroyed from the whole experience. Like it was really hard to watch, but she's moved on with her life, happily married with a child, like it's 10 years later. But yeah, like and this is just to say that like you don't even need to talk to the new supply once they break up, because you can guarantee that still like they're going to treat the new supply like shit regardless of what it looks like on social media, regardless of what outsiders are saying, right? Like even if you get like an enabler or a flying monkey saying like, oh, so and so is so happy in their new relationship, it that's what that person knows. They're not there behind closed doors. And it's just they treat them like shit, like they really do.
When I was in my narcissistic relationship, his ex-girlfriend started stalking me on social media, and we were smiling all over social media. And when I told him about it, he was delighted. He was so happy that she was stalking me. And he's like, oh, she's the opposite of you. She's old. she looks like this, she's like unsuccessful, rah, rah, rah. And he's like, you're a model, you're an actor, you're like you have a successful business owner. Like, he was delighted. And I was like, what the hell? And then, like, now looking back retrospectively, I'm like, did he get with me because I was the opposite? Because he was rubbing me in the face of the previous supply? Yeah,
Right.
probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was that situation where we were smiling all over Instagram and I was crying myself to sleep at night. When I have this conversation with my clients, it's like, I've been that person. I was the new supply being rubbed in the previous person's face, smiling all over Instagram and crying myself to sleep at night. That's why I know, because I was that new supply. We all were at one point.
Yeah. It's a emotional, it's emotional roller coaster, that never stops. And it's like, you have to stop it and say, I'm going to get off, because it never, if you really think back on the relationship, nothing ever made sense. And you can't make sense, or there's nothing sane about insanity. Let me say that.
Mhm.
And so we spent a lot of time in confusion and in emotions, because like Adriana said, when you're confused, you're easily controlled. And they know that. So this is why they gaslight the way that they do, and they project, they blame shift, because it produces an environment that's chaotic and it's controlled chaos. They're used to it. You're not. And so they have a superior level of manipulative intellect. This is what I like to call it. It's a superior level. Why? Because it's a supernatural thing that is just not really known to mankind to just behave in that way. Most people just don't. So when you come across these types of people, you're just taken back, because you're like, wow, like, how does a person treat another human being that way? And they don't understand that there's nothing natural about the way that they behave. And I teach that when it's not natural, you have to understand that it's unnatural. And when it's unnatural, we start looking at what type of spirit is attached to this, because you can't tell me that there are millions of people in different countries all over the world behaving the same way, and they don't have the same parent as the narcissist that you have. Like, how is that? They are not even in the same bloodline. Like, how is that? So you have to know that is something else that is at work there. And we all have spirits, right? And spirits can be afflicted. They can. And so, you have those dark entities that have taken residence in their souls. And so narcissists can do the things that they do, and they can not care, because the conscience is seared. And that's the worst thing that you could ever do, is be with a person that has a seared conscience. And that ego is what sears that conscience, because it has to, in order for it to remain in place. Right? So the consciousness of that little child has now been buried so deep inside of that confused, abused adult, that they are now become a different person, because that ego has turned them into a completely different person. They cannot identify with who they were as children, because they don't want to identify with it. So then we become the collateral damage, and we are waged in the balance because of all of the crap that they've been through. So it never makes sense. It's just the definition of, and when you want to talk about a narcissistic relationship, insanity should be right next to it, because that's what it is. And you can never make sanity, and it's just not possible. Insanity can never be sane, period.
Yeah, absolutely. So if the narcissist has moved on with a new supply, in a lot of cases, people will say, I don't understand. They've got this new person. Maybe they've married the new person. Maybe they have kids with the new person. Why are they still reaching back out to me?
Supply, to see if they can get supply from you, right? Because you're part of their collection of people in that narky Rolodex that they keep, right? Like, they always have other sources of supply on speed dial. And just because they've moved on and it appears that they're happy on social media, even if they've gotten married, had children, like this has happened to several of my clients too, where, it's funny because it'll happen like when we start the program, and then it's like, you'll never guess this. My
Yeah.
narcissistic ex from like 7 years ago, who's married with kids now, literally just reached out. And it's like, what are the chances, right? And it's like
Yeah.
they will like they don't always hoover, but sometimes they do. And you know, it's to see if they still can have some power and control over you, to see if they can get a response from you, to see if they can get a reaction from you. And, they're expecting you to say, like, what the fuck? Like, why are you reaching out to me? Like, what
Yeah.
is going on? Right. And then that
Yeah.
turns into a whole cyclone of bullshit, and they can try to restart that cycle of abuse with you.
That's
Yeah, because the question often is also, but they hate me. Why are they still reaching out? But they hate me. Why are they still contacting me? Why won't they let me go?
They hate everyone. They hate themselves.
That's it. That's
Right. It
it.
doesn't.
People don't think that. They're like, oh no, they couldn't. They love themselves. No, they hate themselves. They're very selfish, but they don't like themselves.
Hmm.
They don't.
Yeah.
They
But
have
they're not
a
reflecting on it.
no, no, no. And they're not going to tell you that. They're going to tell you, why would I want to do something like that to myself? I love myself and I love you too. No, that's a lie from the pit of hell. You don't love me and you don't love yourself. And you just have to look at the way that they treat you. And people think that, you have to, oh, well, they said this and they said that. If you
I don't
really
know if
sit,
they're coming or going. I don't care
no,
what
they
they said.
But why would you, with a narcissist, with anyone, let me just say this, with anyone, pay more attention to what they do rather than what they say. Because what they do is an indication of what's in their heart, and it's an indication of the intention of their heart. They can tell you anything, but their actions are going to come strictly out of the soul of who they are.
Mm.
And when you begin to see the actions, and the actions are not lining up with the words that they're speaking, then you know there's deception. And at that point, it is your job, it is our job to make that proper assessment and step back. But the thing about it is, in narcissistic relationships, by the time we get to that place, the emotions are so much so engaged and have taken over the entire relationship that it's just like you're trying to tell a person to step back and they're like, what is step back? I don't understand. They don't understand. And
Yeah.
we were like that too. We didn't get it.
Yeah. And they hate
So,
themselves and they don't love. However, the closest that they ever come to love is in how the new supply sees them in the love bombing phase, how the new supply sees the mask in the love bombing phase. They fall in love with the person falling for the mask.
yeah. Yeah. And then the thing about it is, I tell my clients, you have to take some responsibility. You're not responsible for the lies that a narcissist tells you. But once you begin to see that this is the definition of insanity, you have to say, okay, where did I go wrong and how did I allow this? Because to stay in the pity with them, like that pity party, and to see yourself as a victim, it only damages you more, right? Because to see yourself as the victim, you're seeing yourself just like the narcissist, because they are 100% forever victims. So if you don't come out of that mindset, then how are you going to leave that sphere, so to speak, or that environment? Because your mindset is very much like the narcissist, and which means that there's no help for you either. The pity that you feel for yourself has literally locked you into a cage or a wall. You've put a wall around yourself. You can't get out and no one can get in, just because of the mindset that you have. And people that pity themselves or they're in pity parties or whatever, they are forever victims. It's hard to get through to them. It has to be a break in the mindset. And that's the hardest part. We have to take accountability for our healing.
And that's where doing the emotional work really is so vital for this, right? Like once you start seeing yourself as a survivor and not as a victim, that's where the healing starts, right? And it's, it's okay to be in that pity party mode for a little bit, like, especially if things are fresh, like, of course, it's like you're gonna, how you feel is completely valid, but the key is working through those feelings so you can actually release them, and then you can gain that clarity that, like, okay, I was dealing with a monster and that fucking sucks. I can't sugarcoat it, but now I'm equipped with clarity and tools to avoid this in the future.
Yeah. And I think I would just also add that accountability isn't another tool to berate yourself with. Accountability is something to empower you. And when you get out of a narcissist, yeah. And when you get out of a relationship with a narcissist, the narcissist has been telling you everything's your fault, the way they behave is your fault, how they feel is your fault, their abuse is your fault. And people get out of the relationship and they tend to take too much of the blame and too much of the accountability, not only for themselves, but also for the narcissist's actions. And it's really important to kind of correctly do that delineation of blame. You take accountability for your stuff, but you're not taking accountability for their stuff. And part of actually taking accountability is doing the work to understand narcissistic abuse, to understand the personality that you're dealing with, to understand trauma bonding, and know that none of that stuff was your fault, and that that's actually a position that's an empowering position in itself. And it's like taking those bricks off that the narcissist put on you and going, no, this wasn't my fault. And to what Telsha said, then taking the responsibility for your own healing.
Just accepting that, it sucks that you're the one who has to do the inner work, but the narcissist isn't going to fucking do it for you, right? Like they want to keep those bricks on you. They will not take those bricks off of you. And so you have been, thrown to the ground and you've got this shit on you, and you're the one who has to take it off of you, because the narcissist is not interested in helping you out in any way, shape, or form. And at the end of the day, they can't. What they've done is what they've done, and that's like a layer of trauma or several layers of trauma. And, only you have the power to work through that. And once you do, it's so empowering, but also sucks. And I think part of, healing is just being able to acknowledge to yourself, like, this fucking sucks. Like, this is terrible. Like, I'd rather eat glass than do this emotional work, but what's the alternative? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So. But you also have to do that inner work, and
that's her diet, not mine.
You also have to do that inner work and do that healing, because you are a full person and you have an inner being, and the narcissist doesn't. And the reason that it sucks so badly and it hurts so badly and you have to feel all of this grief and all of this pain is because you have the full range of emotions, because you are a normal enough human being, and the narcissist isn't. The narcissist doesn't have an inner being to do inner work. They're a shell. You're a full person.
100%.
That's so true. 1000.
All right, ladies, I think it's been a great conversation, and see you again in the next episode.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Bye-bye.